Hey, this is Professor Homo. Welcome to part 2 of our EX12D, as we're calling it, and we're working on the hours and location. We'll just call it hours because that's the name of the HTML page that we're working on is hours.html, and it's our last one for the semester that we're going to do. And what we just finished up is this hours part, and we use some classes in here to identify these paragraphs, so they have a border on them and they're indented. And then we also made another class just for a span within that paragraph so that it aligns right, and that it aligns right, and it also floats to the right. And we put an inline style to make this office hours move over, and we also put the italic in with that inline style. So we're almost done here. We're going to try to do this map thing. If I look at this, we're going to do this embedded map here, and we're going to put it underneath location. Well, actually, what I'll do first is I'll go to my HTML and see how I'm going to set that up. And here's location, and I'm going to do one thing under here. I'm going to do a div. Div is just a division that we're going to put in there, and we're going to give it an ID. I'm just going to call it div, and I'll just call it ID equals, and then I'll just call it map, because this will be our map. And I'll close that up, and then I'll put a closing div, and that's where we're going to paste our code. That way, if we need to give any margin above or indent it or do anything like that, we could do that within this div. So this is where we're actually going to paste our code that'll be the embedded code for the map. And it's actually fairly easy to do. If we go back to I'm actually going to go back to the page. You can actually go here, and I actually have it highlighted. You can just copy the address, this Broad Street address, and I'm just going to go to a new page in Chrome and just paste the address in there, and it should bring up almost like a map. And I'll click on it to bring up Google Maps. And when Google Maps comes up, if you don't have Google Maps, you could do that through Google. And where you'll find to where that embed this, you might look at this and think, what am I supposed to do with this? But if you go to the options here, the little hamburger menu, and click on that, you'll see all this stuff here. I'm going to go to share or embed map. And I'm going to click on that, and it says right now it's share. There's a link to the map. I'm actually going to click on embed, and it actually builds the map for you with an iframe. And we haven't really worked with iframes, and I don't work with iframes that much, but it works fine for this. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to put that back in our HTML code. So I'm going to put it right here in my div, so I could just copy and paste it, and that's it. That's all my Google code right there. And also, just to be aware that it does put a width and a height in there. So it puts a static width and a height. So once we start getting responsive and we make the page smaller, it's going to cut off the map. Now you could just leave it like that, and that's fine. People could click on it, but we might want to make it more responsive on for a mobile phone. So we may change this width. We may want to override that in our CSS settings when we get to our media queries. But right now, that's what that is. So that's all you should have to do. Now, if I take a look at that, if I save this and I take a look at it, this one, I'll refresh it, and it should show the map. And there it is. And it looks good. It's a little close here, so I'm actually going to indent it the same. I'm going to put a little space before it, a little kind of margin top or maybe padding top, and I'll put a little margin over here so it lines up with our dates here, our days. So I'm just going to do that, and then that should be fine, and then we'll have to fix the responsiveness of it. So that was pretty easy. I'll just go into my CSS, and because I target a map, I can just put a new style here called article with an ID, and I could just target the # map, and all I want to do there is basically just do a margin left, just like the other margin left that we were doing, so it lines up with the days, and I'll just do 1em. And then I'm also going to do a margin top. I could put that in here too. And I'll do a 1em for that. That should be fine. And we'll just see how that looks. And that's where the division or the div where the map is. So if I save that and take a look at it and refresh it, no, it didn't do anything. Let me just check this a second. Article map. Oh, article. I'm sorry. This should be, and it's good to see things like that happen because you're going to make the same mistakes. It's article hours, and then inside there is going to be map. So it's the map div that's inside article hours. So make sure to do that. It's not just an ID of article map. So make sure to do that. I'll save that, and hopefully that'll fix it. And now it fixed it. Now you can see there's that extra space there, and there's that extra space on the left side. So that looks okay. So things look okay so far. So all we have to do is fix our responsiveness. And then we're done with this. Because if I move this over, you can see that the float is a problem, and then also the map isn't getting resized. So just two things we're going to do. So to fix the responsiveness, we're just going to have to go in our media queries. And the first thing I'll do in my media query is fix the, I'm just going to go in here and add a new article in here, or add a new element, so that makes it 58%. So I'll put article, £, and that's going to be hours. So it's targeting that new element ID. And when you do that, you might as well copy and paste that to the one down here too. So when it removes the floats and makes everything 100%, it'll do that. So I'll put that in there, and that looks okay so far. So we'll see if that fixes what's going on our page. So I'll refresh this, and this looks okay. If I make it smaller, see, it gets like 50. You know, there's that where it's kind of split page, which is okay. That's fine. You know, if people see that on a phone that's sideways or something, that's okay. And then once it gets to 520, then it jumps, and then, you know, you can see my map is too big, and then it moves this here. So there's a couple issues here that happen. So I might actually want to put a margin bottom on here below the div of the map, you know, an extra one on there, so when it gets to 520, because we don't really notice it here, but when it drops the nav under there, they kind of run together. So we might fix that in our media query. We might need to remove, I don't think we need the margin to the left anymore, but we want to resize this. So we're going to do a couple things here. So we'll go back in our media queries and we fix those. And what I'm going to do is copy, I'll look for my article map, and I'll copy that because we may adjust that a little bit. And I'm going to put that in my first media query, which is, and I'll put it at the bottom here. Here, the extra space in here I'll get rid of. And I'll paste a new media query style in here. And this is for my 870. And what I want to do here for article map is, well, I don't know if I want to do, let's see what we want to do here. We want to go here, and when it gets to this part, what do we want to have happen? Actually, I don't really want to have anything happen yet. So I don't know if we have to really, it just gets resized a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to do anything in the 870, to be honest. I think I'm only worried about the 520. So I'm actually going to cut this out of here. I don't think we need anything in there at the 870, but I am going to put it definitely in the 520. And what I'll try to do here for article map is remove the margin left. I don't think we need that, so I'll put it at 0. I'll scroll so you can see this better. Margin top we'll leave there. I'm even going to put a margin bottom because we saw that there was an issue. So I'll put that in there. It's margin, replace margin bottom here. And we'll leave that at 1em. So that should help it when it gets down here. But we're also going to try to resize it. So what we'll do, the way to I guess target that, because it's inside map, we can't just resize map because that's just the div that this is in. What we actually want to do is target the iframe. You know, it's in an iframe tag. The iframe is inside of map. So we're going to target iframe and see if we could change the width to a percentage there. And we'll see if we can do that. We'll make it like 100%. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with the height, but we'll see if we could do that. So we're going to target the iframe inside of map. So we're going to make it one more here, one more, and this is in the 520 media query. And in addition, I'm just going to put a space here and put iframe because that is an element. It's an HTML element called iframe. And all that we're going to do there, I believe, is just put in a width and just see if we can override that 600 width and put a 100%. We'll see how that works in case we have any. We took away the margin, so we should be okay. So let's see if that works for us. I'll refresh this, and nothing should happen. And again, I'm not resizing it at 870. But when I get to here, it looks like it's resizing it. it's at least resizing the width. It seems to be scan. It's hard to tell, but I think it's resized. It doesn't look like it's getting cut off. You can actually, you can move this around in here, so you could go in here and move this around. So I don't think that's a problem. I think I did that okay. So we'll see. And we have the margin from the article on either side, or the padding on either side. We have this margin bottom at the bottom. So everything I think looks okay. I think that's going to work. Yeah, I guess that's right, because if you look at the 870 here, it's cutting off my face. It's showing my little, because it's my Google thing, so it's showing my little Google Gravatar, and it's cutting that off. Meanwhile, when you come to here, it's scaling it. It's showing my Gravatar, so that's working okay. So I think that's okay. So everything seems to be working okay with these last couple, the map and then the map iframe, and everything's okay. So what we have is we have 4 pages now on our site. I'll just save this, and I'll save ours, and this is the last thing I'm asking you to do in here. But now what we have, we have a whole responsive site with 4 pages. It wasn't that hard to do, and we got to do a lot of different things on all these pages. Here's the home page, and with our sidebar, and we made that responsive so that things bump down to the bottom. And then the other pages we did were the meet the team, and that's the one where we actually use anchor links to click down the page, and we have top links that jump back to the top. We skipped services. We did testimonials, where we did a block quote, and we kind of styled the inside of the block quote and the quotes themselves. We still had the top link down at the bottom, and it was all responsive. And the last thing we did was hours and location, where we did a section here where we gave it a class with a bottom border. We indented it. We even made a span class so that we can align right within the same paragraph, which, you could have used a table for that as well. And we did an inline style for office hours. We did an embedded iframe for our map. We added some styles so there's some space around the map. And then we also made it responsive so that when this jumps to the bottom, or when the sidebar jumps to the bottom, there's some space in between here, and the map kind of scales, so you could read that pretty well on a phone. So we didn't get to everything on here, but I think for now that's pretty good. So I'm going to stop here. That'll be our last kind of hands-on exercise. Again, this was exercise 12D, hours page that we were working on, and this is the last thing you have to do. So make sure you upload this folder one more time and overwrite it through CyberDuck, and you shouldn't have to do anything else for that.